Hey everyone, Andrea here. Welcome to Karchermakes. This is a place where we like to talk about all things crafty. Today's no exception. Got a little bit of knitting for you today, some sewing, and some future plans. Let's talk about it. First up, let's talk about what I'm wearing. And this is, and I'm gonna take it off here. This is a hand-woven scarf that I made in my beginning weaving class a few years ago at Redstone Glen. And this was the class that made me fall in love with weaving. I had previously taken 2 other different classes at some different places, but this was the class that said, hey, you love this and you should totally do it some more. So what this is it's just a plain weave scarf, and plain weave, for those of you who are not familiar with weaving, is just when the warp, which is this way, and the weft, which is this way, over, under, one thread at a time. So if you remember the little pot holder looms from when we were kids, I feel like everybody made those. That's plain weave. So this is just a plain weave scarf that we did in that class on a 8-shaft floor loom, although you don't need 8 shafts obviously to do plain weave, but we got to design it and I love it. So this was a project that I used Handspun yarn in. So it was black and white for the warp, and you can really kind of tell this in the fringe. So they're probably too long. I should probably trim these, but the warp was black and white, and the reason why I chose that for this project is because I really wanted to see how my handspun yarn worked with both dark and light colors, and I love it. I really can't decide which way I like it better, on the white or on the black. I think they're both equally kind of stunning. So the other yarn, in addition to the handspun, is these cones. It's Harrisville Designs, 100% virgin wool. There's 8 ounces on a cone and 450 yards. So as weavers, we like to have really super long lengths of yarn. So a hank of this, like if you were to buy a hank of this, it would probably be half that amount, probably like 250 yards. This is probably, I'd say, close to a DK weight, maybe sport weight type yarn. And again, just black and white. So I have a lot of this left. I don't know what I'm going to do with it, but maybe one day it becomes something else. But what's interesting is this is what I have left from it, from the handspun. And again, I don't know what this handspun is. It was something that I spun from somewhere. What I'm going to do, and I talked a little bit about this in the last episode. So this is the leftovers from my shift cowl that I made. This is of equal, I'd say, weight. So again, it's inconsistent, but it's probably a sport / DK weight. So what I want to do is, now I have a little bit more to combine with these, and someone left a comment, I believe it was Raina. Hi Raina, if you're watching. Andrea Mallory also has a hat that kind of goes along with that whole shift collection. So I think I'm gonna make the shift along hat out of these handspun to go with the cowl. And I feel like that would be really pretty and stunning. And I hope now that I've added this extra leftover in the mix that I have enough to make the hat. We shall see. So here's a little bit of a better close-up. So pretty, and I love it. And if I were to make this again, if I were to make another scarf on the loom, I would definitely make it longer. It comes about right to here, although, you know, the astronomically long fringe here makes it a little longer, but I feel like I would make the scarf section just a little longer. I like to wrap it a couple times. This goes around once, which is fine, but I think I would like it longer and more cozy. I'm also in desperate need of a haircut. This is the longest my hair's been since the pandy, so need to do that. Need to do some adulting and make an appointment for a haircut. Let's get into project talk next. So what do we want to start with? Whips? Do we want to start with finished objects? I only have really one finished object, so let's start there. My Ravens themed vintage fairy light socks are done. Look at these. I love these so much. The texture of these little baubles is so pretty. Little pop of color at the top. Fun little striped toe at the bottom. And they're amazing. So this is the Vintage Fairy Lights pattern by Helen Stewart. The yarn is Rising Tide Fiber Company Raven's Flock sock set, which came with two minis, which is amazing, purple and black, along with this fun, super speckly main color, white, natural white with purple and black little speckles. So I talked in the last episode about being able to get an entire pair of socks out of a half skein sock set. So half a skein, and then that set had like 3 10-gram minis. So with this one, I have quite a bit of yarn left. So again, this was a full skein, 100 grams, 400-ish, whatever yards. The base is Talbot fingering, which is an 80-20 base. And then, like I mentioned, it came with 2 minis, 20 grams each. There's so much of this left. This is about 55 grams. These are each about 16 grams. Put these together, this is almost a full skein of yarn left over after a full pair of socks. This is how I end up with so many leftovers. So I'm not sure what I'm gonna do with these yet. I'm thinking of combining them with the Birdland leftovers, Orioles themed, Ravens themed. Maybe it just becomes a Baltimore themed project. I don't know, but we're gonna do something. So as far as these socks go, I knit these completely to pattern. I followed exactly what it said with the exception of the pop of color at the top and then the striped toe. And the pattern was well written. And if you're not familiar with Helen Stewart's patterns, she does this thing called, I don't know if it's called a stitch tracker or a row tracker, but she basically breaks the pattern row by row. So even in cases where you're doing something very repetitive here, like this ribbing at the foot, she details row by row. Now, for me, I personally don't need that because obviously it's repetitive. I'm doing the same thing for like 6 or so inches. It's fine. But for somebody who's maybe a new knitter or even a new sock knitter, I can see where that can be really helpful for you to track what row you're on and what you need to do next. But again, made them straight to pattern, US 1.5 needles, 2.5 millimeter. One day I'll remember that. But these are fantastic and I love them. So I have another finished object. You can kind of see a little peek of it there. We're going to talk about that later in the sewing section, but let's finish talk about knitting first. So next up, I have a half finished object, and these were my Christmas Eve cast on. The pattern is another Helen Stewart pattern called the Red Robin socks, and just like the other socks I just showed, I'm pretty much knitting these to pattern with the exception of the heel. I chose to do a shadow wrap heel on these only because I was out and about when I was working on these and got to the heel, and I have this memorized and I couldn't be bothered to look up a heel flapping gusset at the time. So I was like, let me just throw a shadow wrap heel in there. And I'll link it below. There's a really good tutorial on this by Earth Tone Girls, and that's how I learned how to do it. But easily memorizable. After the first pair, I've since had it memorized, so I don't have to look it up all the time. These are super fun. The yarn I used is Cesium Yarns Quit Buggin' Me, and I know that's a reference to something, and you guys are probably yelling at me through the camera, but I don't know what the reference is, but it's these really pretty greens with little tiny speckles of gold. And I thought they were perfect since these were my Christmas Eve cast-ons. And the pattern itself is fairly simple. And just like I mentioned for the other Helen Stewart pattern, it has the whole row tracker for you, which again, I didn't use, but it's just these simple slip stitches that have this nice texture that I think for super variegated yarn like this, it breaks up the pattern a little bit and adds more sort of interest to the pooling of the yarn. So there's that. There's that. I did start the second one. So when I make socks, I have to immediately cast on the second sock or the next pair of socks when I'm finished, because if I don't, I'll procrastinate and it'll never get done. So I did cast on the second sock to this. And I've gotten a little bit done. I'm a little over halfway to where I'll add the heel. I'm doing 16 pattern repeats and then I'll put the heel in. And there's the little gingerbread stitch marker. I don't know where that's from. I've had it forever. I'm channeling Christmas. Yes, it's February. I'm channeling Christmas. All right, this next whip, you guys, love. I could have had this done, easily finished, in probably a week. I like making this so much, I actually slowed down and worked on other things because I didn't want it to end. And I'm at the final section, so it means it's gonna end soon. That's okay. I'll have it done by the next time we talk. But this is amazing, and let me know what you think. Just let's take a moment to enjoy the beauty that is this project. So this is the Grid Gambit Cowl by Samantha Guerin, and it is fantastic. I'm not going to go into my full deep dive thoughts about this project yet. We'll save that for when it's a finished object. But when I tell you that I love this, this may be, I feel like I say this about every project. That's recency bias, right? I feel like this is the most favorite thing I've ever made. And I really feel that way, maybe because it's my hand spun, maybe because the pattern is just so kind of simplistic yet interesting. Does that even make sense? Like, it's such an intuitive pattern. It's easy to follow. I said I wasn't going to do a deep dive, and here I go blabbing. But just look at it. Look at it. It's so good. So the yarn I'm using for this is my own hand spun from a loop bump from Loop Fiber Company. Unknown fiber content. It's wool. And also, I didn't notice this until I hanged this up, caked it up. Has the tiniest bit of sparkle. I have no idea if that's even gonna show up here on this camera, but tiniest bit of sparkle. And this is chain plied. So I tried to explain this in the last video, and when I watched it back, I was like, Karcher, that's a terrible explanation. So let me try to do a better job here. So in the loop bump, it has very long sections of color. So when I spun this, I made one single, not two bobbins, just one bobbin, single, and then I chain plied it, which effectively makes a 3-ply yarn. It's kind of like, if you want to think about how you crochet, it's almost like you're crocheting the yarn together. That's It's a whole other topic. But anyway, what that does is it keeps the color together. You can very easily manipulate the color so that it stays together. Unlike, for example, this one, where this is a 2-ply where I've mixed the colors. I didn't try to keep the colors together. This keeps the colors together. So basically what this does is it makes a self-striping or like a gradient, and you can really see the effect of that in this project. You can see it goes from like a really dark kind of gray charcoal into pink, back into the dark, into the gray, and then now I think we're coming up. This side looks better. Now we're gonna come up into some of this like rusty orange color. And I don't know, that's just amazing to me. It is so magical and I love it. So like I said, this should be finished by the next time we talk, which may be in a week, it may be 2 weeks, depends, but I love it. So Samantha and also the Botanical Knitter are doing a Knitalong for this. It runs through March 7th. And I had to correct that in the last video. I said May 7th. Like, that would be an enormous amount of time for a make-along. March 7th. And, you know, just seeing everybody's projects. And I feel like I want to do like a little segment on here. Like when I make something, maybe show off some other examples other people have made. I don't know. I think that would be fun as a comparison. Tell me what you think below. But in any case, I should absolutely have this done by March 7th. Like I said, I'll probably have this done maybe this weekend even, possibly next. But there it is, and it's beautiful. Oh, and the other yarn that I'm using is Magpie Fibers, Solo Fingering, and the Stag Bunny colorway. So there's that. So in other project talk, let's talk about something a little different. So I occasionally talk about sewing on here. I'm a very novice sewer. I've sewn, like my mom and dad both individually taught me how to sew when I was a kid. My dad taught me how to hand sew. My mom showed me how to use the machine. So I've been introduced to sewing for a very long time, but the act of actually making things has not been long at all if you kind of look at what I've made. But I wanted to make a little project bag. I got this fabric. It was on sale. I was buying something else. It was like $2 for this little mini charm pack. There's the label, April Rosenthal, XOXO. And normally I'm not a Valentine's person. We don't celebrate Valentine's. We don't go out for Valentine's. We don't give cards for Valentine's. Maybe if the candy's on sale, I'll buy candy for us, but we're not really Valentine's people. But I just thought this fabric was so cute and pretty, and I wanted to make something out of it. So I made a project bag, and I primarily used Erica Arndt's zipper pouch YouTube tutorial to make this, although I didn't follow her sizes, obviously. And I'm really bad at estimating sizes of things, apparently, because I thought this was going to be tiny sock sack, and it turned out big enough for probably a shawl project and maybe even a fingering weight sweater. But I just did a little patchwork moment with the little squares. And so the mini charm pack squares are 2.5 inches square. So this is what that looks like. Kind of similar on the back, just different fabrics, because each one comes with like 42 squares, I think, and some are duplicates, but some aren't. And then I just added some of this other fabric that I had laying around and a black bottom. This is leftovers from that Ravens bag that I made a while ago. And has a zipper. I didn't put any pockets in it because I was already tasked enough trying to make this, and I didn't want to make it any harder. But it is lined, has some white on white kind of flowery fabric. And I just thought this was so cute. And, you know, I know there's a lot of people out there who make and sell project bags. y'all, you're doing some hard work, and please know that I appreciate it, and I will never get to a point where I'm like, you know what, let me make some bags to sell. Absolutely not. This took me, I actually tracked the hours. We're going to talk about that in a second, but I actually tracked my time for this. This took me 10 hours to make. I would have to sell this for $1,000 to get my time back, but there it is. I think it's cute, and I need to dig out some yarn. I do want, dig, like it's right there. I do want to make some maybe Valentine's themed socks that I can put in this bag and actually use it. So there's that. So in other sewing, and this is never going to be like a sewing focused channel. This is just like some bonus stuff I'm working on that I wanted to share with y'all. So this book, I talked about this in my goals video. This book, Alice's Wonderland Sampler Quilt. It's by Alice Caroline. So this is basically like a quilting workshop in a book. There's 100 blocks that you make, and it takes you through from simplest to most complicated, and then piecing the whole quilt together, doing the borders and all of that stuff. So I thought this would be a good way to help build up my sewing skills, and I've managed to finish 4 blocks of this so far. So let's see those. So I'm keeping these in a cookie tin from Levain Bakery. This was my boss sent cookies for Christmas, and this is what they came in. And I thought the tin was so cute. Look at the little animals. But again, channeling Christmas, and it's February. But I was able to get 4 done so far. So this was the first one, and again, they start very simple, and then you get progressively more difficult as you go. So this is called the Amish bar quilt, which is just some strips. Like, it couldn't get any easier than this. And by the way, I've made 4 squares, and I've messed up something on each one of them. So, you know, we're learning. So Amish bar. The second one is called, and I'm looking at my notes because I don't remember any of these names, Rail Fence. Now this one, I didn't fix it. I messed it up and I didn't fix it. So the first one, I cut the strips the wrong size. This one, I inverted the pink and the red. So those should actually be inversed, and you know, it's whatever. I'm not fixing it. It's fine. The third one is a 9-patch, which, 9-patch? Is it called a 9-patch? Yeah, 9-patch, which is a big kind of checkerboard. And the last one, which took me 3 hours to make, is this checkerboard of little tiny squares. And I think you can see, I can see it. I don't know if you can see it. I've looked at it enough. These squares are not even, and some of them are a little wonky. But again, I'm learning, and this is a really great way to do it. So really pretty. So the fabrics that I'm using for this are all Lori Holt fabrics. And she does, if you're not familiar, she does like kind of classic calico type prints. Very sort of, I don't know, I would call it country, but you know, I don't know how else to describe it, but it's kind of like old-fashioned-y calico. And I got a bunch of different collections from her, and we'll be incorporating them into this. So the book itself uses Liberty fabrics, and those are expensive. Like, the Lori Holt fabric isn't cheap, but the Liberty fabrics are kind of expensive. Now, they're beautiful, but I didn't want to spend that much money on something that I was probably going to screw up. So I did, though. So they have this color. They have this like swatch chart where they have the recommended colors. So even though I'm not doing these exact fabrics, I'm trying to pick fabrics for each segment. So each kind of collection is 10 blocks. So I'm trying to pick fabrics that at least match the color sort of theory, if you will. So the first set is, you know, primarily reds, a little bit of yellow, a little bit of green, and then blues and purples. So I'm trying to keep the same vibe, the same feel, just with a more cost-effective fabric. So there's that. This has been really enjoyable. I've liked working on it. And, you know, it's always fun to learn something new in the craft world. So that is it for the making segment of this program. As far as stash acquisition, I didn't buy anything. I haven't bought anything yet. No, wait. I did buy something. I lied. So I did order the Warm Hug Club from Fiber Nymph Dye Works, and what that is self-striping yarn. It comes every other month for 3 months. And the reason why I picked it is because, number one, she has a DK weight base for socks, and I really want to make more DK weight socks. So that was number one. And then number two, it's a club, which is interesting to me. I love surprises, but it's only a 3-month commitment. So I know a lot of clubs are ongoing and, you know, they just keep going until you cancel, or some of them you actually have to order every month and remember to order every month. But, you know, I felt like that was a good sort of compromise. It's only 3 months. Let me see how it is. Let me see if I can keep up with making these socks. DK, I probably will. They just don't take me a long time at all. But make sure you subscribe if you're interested in seeing those kind of unboxings and then all the fun things I make with the yarn. Primarily going to be socks, but then I was thinking about it and I was like, maybe I can make some mittens, maybe a hat. I don't know. We will see. Stay tuned for more. So in the last episode, I showed some stickers that I had bought, and someone had asked a question, and I'm sorry, I don't remember who it was. I should have wrote that down in my notes. Somebody was like, yeah, I like stickers too, but I never know what to do with them. So I'll insert some footage here of what I do with most of my stickers. It's not all of them, it's most of them though. I have a cart down in I call it the loom room. It's the room that has the weaving loom in it. And it just keeps like all of my little tiny notions and stuff together. So I've started putting all the stickers, most of the stickers on that. Now, I already have one side pretty full, and I'll insert some footage here so you can actually see it. But I may have to start putting some on the back side, or I actually have a second cart upstairs in my home office that I have plenty of room on that I could put some on there too. But in addition, I started a knitting journal, and this is, if you guys are interested in this, I'm going to do probably a separate video about this, but I started putting some of the stickers that I have in the knitting journal, and you can see this one here. This is one of the ones I showed from Keely Reichman, Odd Girl Journals. It's the little character from the Stitch Quest Make Along. And I just started incorporating various stickers throughout this journal just to kind of, you know, make it fun, make it interesting. I don't know. I love stickers, and this seemed like a good place to put them. So speaking of future videos, in addition to the journal thing, I'm thinking about doing, and I've started planning for, an organizational series. Now, organization does not come easy to me. It is not natural for me. I'm okay with like setting up organization and starting it, but when it comes to maintaining it, that's where the train flies off the tracks. Like, I'll have places for things and it's neat and organized, and then as I kind of use it, it all kind of goes downhill. I'm somebody who has never met a flat surface they didn't like. I'm not even going to show you there's a couch in this room. I'm not even going to show you what it looks like. There's so much stuff piled on it. Look, this is who I am. I accept it, but I really want to get better at that. So one of the ways that I think will help me do that is to really kind of go through what the process is, right? And share that here on the channel. So if you're interested in that, make sure you hit the subscribe button so you get those in your feed when they come up. But I just really think that would be maybe helpful and interesting for other people as well as myself and what I learned from that process. So in addition to that, I need to find the next epic Scrappy sweater. I've seen so many patterns. I've bought probably 3 or 4 by now. There's too many good patterns, and I really want to explore the process of, it's everything is a process with me, I'm sorry, but I really want to explore the patterns. Will they lend themselves well to being scrappy? And I have a lot of thoughts around that. So I also have all of the leftovers from that End Times cardigan that I made, and they need a project for sure, because right now they're all in a giant bin that's taking up a lot of room, and I want to be able to use that yarn. One of my other goals for 2025 was to use stash, use scraps, and I feel like another epic Scrappy sweater will be good use of that. So that's it for the making. Let's talk about life stuff now. And if you're not interested in life stuff, that's okay. Go to the next video. There's more than enough content on YouTube to watch. You don't have to listen to me blab about my life. But a couple things that are coming up. So Yarn Centric is the Friday of Maryland Sheep and Wool Weekend. It's in Frederick, Maryland. And I got my tickets. So excited. Their vendor lineup looks amazing, and I can't wait. So I got tickets for the first. They do timed tickets. I'm in the first time slot. I think it's 10 to 12. I'll honestly probably be there closer to 12 than 10 because I gotta take the Beltway to get there, and the traffic in the morning is horrendous. So I will probably be slow rolling in around lunchtime, but I'm trying to put together what my kind of plan and my budget is for that. And if you guys are interested in a series about fiber festivals, planning, organization, budgeting, all of that, let me know. Because, you know, I find that type of information helpful, and I feel like I have my own inputs to it that could be helpful to somebody else. So leave a comment below if you're interested. But Yarn Centric, May 3rd. Pretty sure it's May 3rd. First Friday in May, Maryland Sheep and Wool Weekend. And then speaking of Maryland Sheep and Wool, so today is Saturday, February 8th. Tomorrow, February 9th, same time that this video is going up probably, Maryland Sheep and Wool is releasing their classes. Now, they are doing them in 2 segments. So they're doing the spinning classes first, and then they're doing the rest of everything else 2 hours later, I think at 2 o'clock. They're doing them at noon Eastern, and please keep your fingers crossed for me that I can actually get into the spinning class that I want. Like, all the good vibes, please send me. Internet gods, please bless me with good internet and no blocking and no slow speeds so that I can get the class that I want. I really want to take the Yarnitecture class with Jillian Moreno. I've mentioned before that I tried to take that during the pandy and it didn't happen. And then I've tried to take it since then, and the class filled up. And then last year it wasn't offered at all. So I really want to take it. I'm super excited about it, and I'm hoping, fingers crossed, I can get in. My local library also hosts a monthly knit group, and that was supposed to be today. And they're calling, and I'm looking out the window to see if it's started yet, because it said it was going to start around 1 o'clock, and it's like 2 o'clock here. So, and it's not, and I'm annoyed. But my local library has this knit group. I've never been to it. I don't know how many people show up. I don't know what the vibe is, but I really want to check that out. And I intended to do that today, and the threat of snow and ice kind of kept me home. So I'm going to put that on my list of things for March. I'm going to block that time out and see if I can do that, because I really want to just connect with people who are also other makers, and I want to do that in like real time. I like doing this, you know, kind of one-way asynchronous conversation about making and knitting and yarn and all of those fun things with you, but I also want to be able to do that in real time. And you know, I don't have those people in my life that I can connect with you know, on a one-on-one or even in a group setting. There's a bunch of yarn stores around here, and I can never seem to make their knit nights work for my schedule. So I don't know, maybe that's something I need to prioritize, but looking forward to that for March since today's is a bust. So in cooking this week, we had a slight little snafu with what I was making, and I was forced to improvise, and I think it worked, and I feel like this may be the way going forward. So what am I talking about? I made chili, and this is not something special. I make chili probably at least once a month, not a big deal. And this was regular red chili, not the white chicken chili that I've talked about before. Regular red chili. I put beans in it. I put 3 different kinds of beans in my chili. Black beans, dark red kidney beans, light red kidney beans. And I use ground turkey for it because I'm not a beef eater. And basically a can of Rotel and tomato sauce. Very simple. Very simple. And I use a recipe online for the actual chili seasonings, which is chili powder, cumin. I use 2 different kinds of chili powder, onion powder, garlic, you know, the basics, right? The basics. But where I ran into an issue was as I was making it, like I was actively putting things together in the pot, cooking it, I realized I didn't have tomato sauce. I normally just get the cans of, I think it's called Centro tomato sauce. It's like a yellow label. I didn't buy that, and I didn't have any. So I went ahead and I used spaghetti sauce, which I guess is kind of the same thing, right? Like tomato sauce is tomato sauce, and spaghetti sauce is tomato sauce. But it was a 3-cheese tomato sauce by Prego. And despite the fact that it had a kind of sweeter taste, because I feel like they put a lot of sugar in their tomato sauce, which I should also probably avoid, but it actually turned out really tasty and really good, and we liked it. So I don't know, pro tip, if you want to make chili and you want to try something a little new, just grab a jar of tomato sauce and try that out and see how you like it. So that is all I have for you today. My normal, this kind of style sit-down episodes, probably going to continue on an every other week basis, although if I finish that cowl, I may come back to you next week. That may be a weekly video. I don't know. We're going to find out. But continuing these normal sit-down episodes, and then, like I mentioned, I have some other content that I want to share, and I feel like those will probably be like bonus episodes sprinkled through. So, like I mentioned, if you're interested in any sort of this future fibery fun with me, please subscribe to the channel. I have a little over 100 to go to make my goal of 1,000 subscribers, and we're gonna have some giveaways when that happens, y'all. So make sure you subscribe and be a part of all of that fun. So thanks everyone for being here. If you made it this long, I appreciate you. And until next time, happy making.